Claude struggled to emerge from his brother's shadows. Little was heard of their sister, Madeleine, known as Pichonette. When the brothers joined the family at weekly lunches, they never made it to dessert. One was certain to have stormed out. They taunted Claude's young fiancée. When there was a lull, she stared at her plate until one demanded, "Suzette, do you hear the clock ticking?" And she would run to her room. As her father's favorite, Suzanne expected to be treated with respect, but Claude chose to see her take his place at the bottom of the stack. The couple married in 1925. Within a year, Suzanne was pregnant and miscarried, but the next year she gave birth to a healthy girl, Lucy. Claude sent the news to Ruth in Canada in an envelope bearing 3 horses, indicating her place in their relationship. The family nicknamed the child Pilette, after a famous Belgian race car driver whose garage sign caught her attention on her daily stroll. Claude was appointed the first artistic director of Brussels' new Palais des Beaux-Arts, where his job was to organize exhibits and answer complaints. He dealt with the boredom by taking up the avant-garde. He was attracted to a struggling Belgian painter, Renee Magritte, a rough-hewn man from the coal mining region west of Brussels, 6 years his senior. Magritte was eking out a living designing wallpaper and sheet music. He aspired to make a name as a surrealist painter, but he struggled with the complex wordplay of the Parisian intellectuals. Claude helped him along by suggesting ideas for paintings, then acquiring them for himself and the extended family, some of whom hid them in the attic. Curious canvases began to fill the Spaak's walls. Other families displayed pictures of dead ancestors or bowls of fruit, but the Spaak's Magrittes showed a tuba bursting into flame and leather boots sprouting toes. At home, all was far from well. Claude's temper drove Suzanne to tears, and there were other complications. Claude was smitten with an older woman whom he followed to the south of France. She humored him for 2 weeks, then sent him packing back to Brussels, whereupon he began an affair with a co-worker. Divorce was legal but rare in Belgium, and Suzanne would be required to show cause, embarrassing the family. She wrote Ruth in Canada and asked her to come back. If Claude was going to have a mistress, it might as well be someone she liked. Ruth could calm Claude's tantrums and intuit his wishes, and she could type. So she became his secretary, and Claude alternated between the 2 beds. In 1931, Suzanne gave birth to Paul-Louis, or Bazou. On the way home from the hospital, the taxi driver looked at him and exclaimed, "Quel petit gros Bazou! What a big little fatso!" And the nickname stuck. Claude and Ruth stood over his cradle and promised never to do anything that would hurt the children. Pilette contracted polio at the age of 2. After a long search, Suzanne found a Swedish doctor who helped her with a new procedure. The painful operation kept her in a cast for months, but it saved her leg. Suzanne then turned to social issues. The Depression had driven factory workers into the streets. In 1935, Paul-Henri was appointed to serve as Belgium's youngest cabinet minister. Though he advocated for the workers, Claude and Suzanne thought he was too cautious. Suzanne turned to the World Committee of Women Against War and Fascism, a leftist coalition of feminists and pacifists. She took an interest in the plight of the Jewish immigrants she met there, a growing population invisible to most Belgians. Jews accounted for less than 1% of Belgium's population of 8 million, and only a small fraction were citizens. Most had fled hardship and pogroms in Eastern Europe, and the Nazis were adding thousands to their ranks. When Suzanne read some articles by a young Polish Jewish activist, Julia Perrot, she encouraged her to take up photojournalism. She commandeered her sister Bunny's Leica Elmar III. "You never use it," she told her, and Bunny's Leica launched Perrot's career as a world-class photographer. In 1936, Claude commissioned Magritte to paint family portraits. He began with a snapshot of Suzanne, placing her image on a page of a book, opening to a patch of blue sky with white clouds. Then he did portraits of Claude and Ruth, seated in front of surrealist backgrounds. Claude disliked them and cropped the paintings, leaving only the heads. The next year, Magritte painted the children in front of a window open to a road strewn with surrealist icons. His final painting of Claude's family was